How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Griot's Garage YouTube Live. I'm Nick.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Stevie.
Today we are talking all things paint in your glass, visibility. So, riveting topic for sure.
My glass is the blurriest.
Yeah, we have some creative folks behind us, but glass is seemingly a simple topic, but seemingly, it's also one of the most frustrating and easily my least favorite of all of the materials on a car to take care of.
As a couple of you have pointed out in the comments already, getting glass streak-free can be a real pain in the glass.
And it's, as we talked about earlier, the one thing you interact with the most as it relates to being an effective driver.
Yeah, right? It affects you every time you drive. You're constantly looking through it in some way, shape, or form. So you're always interacting with it.
Yeah, so we're going to give you as many tips as we have. If you guys have some tips, great, throw them at us. We'll either naysay them or approve of them, as we always do. We always encourage questions, so be active in the chat. If we do not get to your specific question today, we do always have No Questions Left Behind, which will be posted on our YouTube channel on Friday. Generally, in the whole progression, we're trying to show you things as much as we are responding to your questions. So please participate. Let us know if it's your first time here. Know that your questions and your participation are things that help give us some ammo to give things away to you.
Yeah. Everybody likes free stuff. Which today, we're doing the giveaway is the Enthusiast Glass Cleaning Kit. Matt, I think you had a quick graphic of that to put up, but it comes with a few of our favorite glass cleaning products, including our new ceramic glass cleaner, a couple of the staples in our ultra premium glass. You get some towels in there. I think you also get the window cleaner set that Nick has over on his cart for interiors. So it's a good kit to get you started cleaning and protecting your interior and exterior glass surfaces.
That is a $65 value, yours free, with only a great question in the chat.
Yeah, your participation. Bunny Fart Loads. That is the first time I've seen that name. You're a brave man. That is your screen name, but man, that's
pretty good.
Not going to be one we forget, so you better bring it today, Bunny Fart Loads. Calling you out early, dude. But, okay, so
pretty good
getting past that, a good dad fart joke to start. So we do have some news and some events. As you know, this time of year, we're in full SEMA prep mode, so we're busy, to say the least.
Yeah.
The weather is turning. That's why this topic is so appropriate. But we are hard at work getting everything ready for that. Ahead of that, we will be in Indianapolis on October 15th. It's our garage sale, or not garage sale, excuse me, customer appreciation sale and caffeine and gasoline. So if you're in the Plainfield, Indiana area, or you're within driving distance, October 15th at our distribution and manufacturing warehouse in Plainfield, Indiana. Great discounts. We'd love to see you there. So Indy folks, we are listening to you. We're excited to see you all.
Yeah, that sale's a great one too. So if you're local, definitely get out there for that. The next event is, of course, the anticipated SEMA. So that is November 1st through the 4th. They do have some tickets open to the public again this year as well. So for those of you that aren't in the industry, if you do want to go, there is opportunity there. We'll be down there in the West Hall, have our same booth. Got a pretty sweet car from Goolsby Customs that will be in our booth.
That was supposed to be a secret, but...
Oh, well, I just blew it, guys.
No, we
won't tell you what car.
One of our great friends, John Goolsby, is debuting a car there. So yeah, we're excited, and we got some new stuff to show them, right?
A few new things, as usual.
If you're going to be at SEMA, our booth number is 50217. So stop by and give us a look.
Thank you. And that's in the new West Hall. I think a lot of people didn't know about it last year, and again, because we've had a lot of international vendors that haven't come back. Due to COVID in the past couple of years, they are opening up access. And even if you're there on Friday, which for us, it's like, oh, the light's at the end of the tunnel, we're done. We're still going to be happy to see you. And of course, there'll be all the cool stuff that is happening at SEMA that you'll still get to see. And then SEMA Ignited is that Friday night where they give out all the awards, all the cars that are in the show, if they actually drive. We'll be driving through there too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a fun event. Definitely, if you're out there, come see us. we'll have some free samples for you, and of course, lots of awesome new products and demos.
And then to start November after SEMA, we will have our caffeine and gasoline. It will be race cars on Saturday, November 5th. Coffee, donuts, the whole 9 yards. It's always a great time. We've been blessed with some pretty strange yet good weather here in October, but the rains are coming, and the nights are getting longer, so visibility, great topic.
Yeah, it's that time of year. You want to maintain your glass so that as it does get darker and starts raining, you can see when you're driving. So we're going to do some demos.
We are going to do some demos.
That's the next topic, but before that, make sure you sign up for our promo emails. Get on the email list so you're notified of all of our sales and giveaways. You can enter for that on our website. I think actually when you go to our website, there's a pop-up, gives you an easy path to entrance into that email list so you never miss anything.
It's the first time you're going to know about our sales and promotions. And during this time of year, with Black Friday coming up, with our new launches at SEMA, it's a good time to get an email from us.
Yep, absolutely.
And of course, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. If this is your first time, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. That SEMA event, we do actually do a live on that event where we kind of debut and introduce our products, and then subsequently we'll follow up with a more in-depth I guess demo and or explanation of all of those products. But it's fun for us. Maybe it's not that fun because it's the first day and we're already tired because we've been there for 3 days.
Day,
but
sure.
We are very proud of the stuff we're going to be putting out this year, so we want to show it off to you. That will be at 4:30 on Tuesday the 1st. So that kind of SEMA special live. We're not going to be doing it in front of any drift cars this year, unfortunately, but maybe able to hear us a little better.
Yeah, for sure. You do not want to miss that one. We've got a lot of awesome new products this year. So I think more than we brought to SEMA last year.
I don't know. It's hard for us to
Very
count.
close,
I mean, we're just kind of always keeping the hopper full.
There's some cool new stuff and a few things that you guys have been asking for a lot. So you definitely want to see that. Check out everything we've got for you next year.
Yeah, and we haven't forgotten about that massive giveaway. We do have an example of it. We've been setting the bar pretty high with 2,500 likes, so we went back to the bean counters and they allowed us to lower our expectations. Not that they are low by any means.
Soften the target a little bit.
We're going to start this on that YouTube or that live follow-up where we go into further detail about our SEMA new products. It's over $1,500 worth of products, essentially enough to start your own detailing business, your own set of custom vans. So you got to participate, you got to throw us a like, tell your friends, everybody to come see us. And again, it's pretty much everything you need to start a detailing business. And our last winner who won, one that was about as much as this, actually has started a detailing business, sent us some great photos. So that is awesome. But we haven't forgotten about that. We're just going to kind of lower the bar a little bit so we can actually give one away.
Yeah, make it a little more attainable. But that's a huge giveaway. I mean, some of our best products and a solution for everything.
Yeah.
Slide that out of the way. So yeah, November 14th is when we will be giving that away if we hit 1,000 likes, of course.
All right, so let's talk about glass because everybody's dying to know about glass. Love to hear what your guys' biggest frustration is with glass. I think there's a lot that goes into it. 1 is technique, 2 is environment, 3 is kind of assessing the condition of your glass, whether they're more permanent features of it, whether it's related to the car, the interior materials, how they off-gas, and what you're fighting in there. I mean, there's all sorts of variables, but there are some pretty simple approaches. That doesn't mean that if you change one of those variables, you won't get a different result. So that's why it really can be quite frustrating.
Yeah, lots of good questions coming in already about processes like steel wool, vinegar, newspaper. So lots of old school stuff coming up. Some that works, some that doesn't. So we'll talk about all that. But yeah, glass is frustrating. It's hard to clean. It's hard to keep clean.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about a couple techniques. First and foremost, we'll do some demonstrations. One of the easiest things in terms of routine glass cleaning for me is what your equipment's like. So a good quality glass cleaner is generally the standard, right? You need something that, if you have tinted windows, is safe for your tint. 2, can cut off any off-gassing, any of those kind of VOCs that leak out of a vinyl dash or the rest of your interior. If you heavily coat your dash or vinyl products with something that's very heavily silicone based, that can, again, breathe and leave a film on your glass. So a glass cleaner is going to be what you use to not only remove those buildups, but also not damage the glass itself and leave nothing behind, right? We don't want something that has silicone or something that is going to leave any kind of unwanted residue.
Yeah, and even dyes, fragrances, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we have a couple options. Our long bearing standard is our window cleaner. This is, kind of a isopropyl based product and very light duty, very safe as well. Then we have our ultra premium glass cleaner, which is more surfactant based. So it will, in my opinion, cuts a little better, and the foaming delivery gives it a little better cling. So if you are doing a lot of interior work on sensitive materials, just minimizes kind of the overspray that you could get as you're going through different materials. So
yeah, don't have to chase drips or runs.
Yeah.
A little quicker, more efficient.
And then in the last year, we have introduced both of our ceramic glass cleaners. They're great for cleaning and then do actually leave protection behind. We've got some great tips on how to apply this properly, the proper amount of times that you should use it or when you should use it, and all of its benefits, and we'll show you that later today.
Yeah, I think one of the things we talk about a lot here is like glass is very finicky to clean. Even when you have really good products, really good towels, it can still be difficult to get it streak-free depending on how you're going about the process. So I think we've got a couple quick tips to start with for cleaning glass. So I think one of the first is, of course, selecting a proper towel. Having a glass cleaning, dedicated microfiber is always going to be ideal. There's a lot of good ones out there. Of course, we like to think ours are the best, and they definitely are, but there are some similar solutions out there that you can go with. So our dual weave glass towel is our largest. This is a new crinkle glass towel, excuse me. I think I got PFM dual weave here. This is also a dual weave towel, but this is our crinkle glass towel. So you have the crinkle weave side, which is going to cut through the heavy contaminant and grit better. And then you have a no nap, flat flash side for doing your final buff to get to a streak-free finish. That's a 16 by 16 towel. And then you have a 9 by 9 PFM dual weave glass towel. This has PFM terry weave on one side, and then the no nap glass cleaning microfiber on the opposite side. I tend to like these for interior because they don't roll over on you. When you're at an awkward angle doing your windshield or your rear glass, it's a palmable size. And typically the inside's not getting as dirty, so you don't need to use as much cleaner, unless you have dogs or kids. That might be a different story. And then the 16 by 16 is great. Exterior, a little more room to flip and turn to as you're working your way around the exterior surfaces where you have more heavier soiled glass surfaces there. So you can flip and rotate as you go. And then I always like to have 2 towels, really, regardless of whether I'm on the inside or the outside. Have one towel that you're wiping the bulk of the liquid off and soaking it all up, and then a second dry towel that you're coming in and doing your final buff.
Yeah, in addition to the liquid, right?
Yep.
Any of the film or residue, you're kind of using that towel primarily for that cleaning purpose.
Yep.
And then the drying and streak-free is that secondary one. So that's like, I can't reiterate that enough. Multiple towels
2-towel method
is a big thing because, if you start to try and get all of your glass done with a single towel, well, that towel is going to become saturated.
Yeah.
And so you're actually going to be drying a fast flashing, very light or wispy product with a damp towel, and invariably leading to streaks.
Yep.
So if you hate streaks, use multiple towels is a really quick step. Doesn't necessarily have to be our towels. However, I think that if you are using a lower grade towel, it's probably the best scenario for that because glass is less sensitive to scratching, right? So when we talked last time about cheaper towels having scratch points and their nap actually potentially doing harm to a perfected finish, you have less sensitivity on glass. So I'm saying that just to suggest we're not forcing you to use our towels. They are excellent because, as Sam mentioned, the dual weave nature. I tend to like one of the kind of bigger sides, whether it's the crinkle or the longer nap, for my cleaning and the majority of the liquid absorption, and then flipping to the other side for that finishing and refinement. So having two towels, whether it be this one and its long nap side for the cleaning, and then flipping our crinkle towel onto its fine side, and that being my finisher, excellent, right? Now your finishing towel is going to be drier, and you're using something that is really, really focused on just getting that last little bit of product and streaks away.
Yeah, and don't underestimate the size of the PFM. I see a few of you guys commenting on that. This is a very absorbent towel because of the terry weave material on the PFM side. That being said, it is still a quarter size towel relative to the larger 16 by 16. So the idea with the size is it's a little more wieldy, easy to operate. But for those of you that like a larger towel for more absorbency, you have that crinkle towel option.
And those are sold in a 4-pack, presuming that you consume more towels, so you've got enough towels to easily work around. I'd say on a car like this Bronco, I'm probably using 3 of those towels to do both interior and exterior glass, if I even have to do exterior glass after I've washed the car already.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and a couple other quick tips. So this is our ultra premium foaming glass cleaner there. You can see how it clings well. But one of my favorite tips that I learned that helps a ton with glass cleaning is to frame the glass as your final pass. So we'll clean the whole surface there, wipe it all down, and then my final cleaning pass, I'm gonna frame the glass, pressing my fingers into the corners, and then I'll flip the towel to that low nap side, or better yet, grab a second dry towel, fold this a little better.
Sorry.
Come in, it wasn't directed at you. And then buff dry and frame it again. So the majority of your streaks occur at the ends of your passes, where you're changing direction. So framing around the exteriors, your final pass, will help knock out any streaks that build up in the corners of the glass or on the edges.
Yeah, we're going to demonstrate, a couple more techniques. One of the things that I love the framing technique. I do like directional.
Yeah.
So
opposite.
If we're doing interior and exterior and you're really frustrated with your process, whatever you're doing now, if you can't change your towels, you can't change your cleaner, one simple thing you can do is an approach like what Sam just demonstrated, or simply varying the direction of your wiping, whether it be interior or exterior. So,
or do both.
Yeah, on something like a windshield, that's generally, again, most critical visibility corridor.
Yeah.
What's in front of you, obviously your rear windshield is pretty important as well. But that is one where I almost always choose a direction that I do on the inside and then change that. So if I'm going vertical passes on the inside, I will go horizontal on the outside. Take a light to it and understand, okay, did I get streaks that are vertical or horizontal? Okay, now I need to touch the outside.
Yep.
Because that's where the streaks are coming from, based upon their direction.
That way you're not chasing your tail trying to get streaks on one side when they're on the other side.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, especially, any size vehicle, but especially big vehicles and windshields.
So one other thing
big surface.
You didn't necessarily address, but is really critical, is the amount you use.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I think one big thing that people tend to do is over-apply a glass cleaner.
Especially with glass products.
And some of that has to do with an inferior towel that doesn't glide, right? So if you're really finding that, I'm cleaning this glass and now the towel is grabbing, I need more glass cleaner. You might want to change the towel if that's the case, or you might be, fighting a very heavy film, which means, a reapplication might be critical. But over-application is a surefire way to oversaturate your towels and leave unwanted streaks behind. So, I don't know, as you demonstrated, it's really, I would say that, if I was doing a very deliberate pass, you can see I'm getting drips.
Yeah.
I've pretty much completely negated the benefit of this foaming
Yeah.
product. And now I've got a really wet window that's probably going to soak this towel. So, whereas you did, kind of some light passes, that's probably more than enough.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the only case you need to hose it down like that is if it's really dirty to the point where you have mud or heavy dirt built up on the surface.
Yeah, and again, in those scenarios, you might be doing multiple approaches. But
or ideally, you're doing a wash to get it clean.
We
first.
did wash this Bronco earlier today, because some of you I did see asked. But you can see like that pass with a pretty absorbent towel. There's still a ton of material here.
Yeah.
So now I've got one side that's completely soaked and having to go back, and sure enough, I'm finding some grabby areas
and use up product faster than you need to.
Yeah, it's just not necessary.
Definitely try to avoid over-application, but if you're like me and over-application is in your blood, you can definitely use 2 separate towels, as I'm sure we mentioned earlier, and we'll mention multiple times throughout this live, but you can use a 2-towel method where you have a wet towel and a dry towel. That way you're going around the glass with your wet towel and then finishing with that dry towel. The wet towel is picking up most of that product, and then the dry towel is ensuring that you're not leaving streaks.
Yeah, I'm already finding that this towel's not absorbing the way I want it to. So
yeah, it happens a lot faster than you would think if you're only using one towel. Even if you're being very deliberate about keeping one side wet and then flipping to a dry side, you're still going to soak through quick. So those are a few basic tips for cleaning your glass, which is probably the most frequently done process on glass, keeping it clean, whether it be your windows on your car or mirrors in your bathroom or sliding glass doors at your house. All of those tips are pretty much everything we're going to talk about today applies to glass at home as well as it does on your vehicles. So all this can be used across the board.
Yeah, I would say one of the other things, again, we kind of did touch on this. This is a newer glass system. This is a new car. We do have some care techniques we're going to go deeper into decontamination and polishing for water spot removal. But I really do think that for exterior glass, in most cases, if you've washed the car ahead of time, you're generally not going to have to do exterior glass cleaning. You might actually see that, okay, once you've cleaned your glass, now I see some aspects that I want to cure with more steps. Mm-hmm. The other thing, these are just straight cleaners, right? Our window cleaner and our ultra premium glass cleaner. Our ceramic glass cleaners are capable of cleaning, but the same thing applies. In fact, you want to be even more sensitive in that scenario of the consumption or how much you utilize, because now you've got a protective and or reactive element within that formula that if you really do over apply or don't manage your towels, you're going to get streaks, and those streaks are going to be pretty stubborn.
Yeah.
Right, because they are going to have some solid in them that is going to, probably frustrate you.
Yeah, it's a protectant, so if it has a chance to set up, it's going to be more resistant to just wiping it away like you're used to with a streak from a glass cleaner.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. The composition of your cleaner also can affect the outcome. But in general, outside of the scenarios that you two described, extremely soiled exterior glass where you're trying to do some cleaning just with the cleaner and not as part of your wash process. Minimal use is going to make that streak-free finish a little easier. If you have a 2-in-1 product, there are many of them out on the market. There's a pretty popular brand out there that does it with silicone. Over application is just going to cause you a bad time.
Yeah, that's one of the, that applies to a lot of detailing processes, but especially glass cleaning. Less is more.
One other thing about your cleaner, I think the most popular glass cleaner on earth is not hard to estimate, Windex.
Yeah.
Windex is excellent. Part of that is because it features ammonia. Ammonia is a great cutter. Like if you're struggling with, I saw a couple people say, yeah, I've got vape residue. Not really dealt with a lot of that personally, but if you have tinted windows and you're saying, oh, I need the most effective cleaner, and you use something that features ammonia, guess what happens to your tint? It starts to degrade. So you may just be doing multiple applications to cut through that film and then finally go back and refine your glass after you've gotten through that film.
Yep.
But if you don't have tinted glass, such as this front window here, Windex is a perfect solution. The only other advice I would offer is that if you're going to use that on your interior glass, just be careful where that settles and what you're overspraying it on, because that ammonia definitely could affect a sensitive leather dash or even affect some of the vinyls and plastics if allowed to dry, or really you got a heavy drip on some of your interior materials.
Yeah,
so
it could soften or potentially spot vinyl.
But generally, ammonia is the biggest criminal, should I say, as it relates to tint degradation not being tint safe. All of our products are going to be safe for tint. They do not contain ammonia.
Yep, absolutely. And the only situations, I mean, let's say not a situation where you can't use it on interior, but you're not really going to benefit, would be the ceramic glass cleaners. Still safe for interior. There's no ammonia. You don't really benefit from the hydrophobic protection on interior glass, except for like fingerprint resistance. You know, if you have
Orphan kids
touching your windows,
projectile vomit.
may help with that a little bit. It's not going to prevent it altogether.
I actually found that the scent of that product attracted my dog's tongue more than anything. So like he gets in my cargo compartment, because we obviously developed this product, did a lot of testing, and he sits in the very back.
Just won't
and all
stop
of a sudden
licking
I'm
the
like,
window.
Enzo, what the hell are you doing? And he's just licking the window. He's not very smart, but yeah, it didn't prevent dog tongue and its saliva from making an impact.
I don't think anything will prevent that.
Yeah, it's a slightly more expensive and richer formula, so it's perfectly fine for interior, as you mentioned. It does not have anti-fogging capabilities, so that benefit would be excellent. I think it unfortunately requires different chemistry that is not contained in that.
And that was a good comment. We've had a lot of questions about that. We do not have any anti-fog products yet. There are a couple decent ones out there on the market, so if you have that issue, try those out. We don't have one for it yet.
Got a couple questions about glass sealant versus ceramic glass cleaner, which is better. We will get to that. I think the only other thing that we wanted to talk about as it relates to interior cleaning glass, if you have, I mean, a lot of modern cars have really angular windshields.
Really steep, or rear windows.
Yeah, and a great tool to have is this window cleaner set. Basically, it features kind of a similar microfiber nap to that of the PFM dual weave, not the actual Terry Weave PFM material, but the backside, very grabby. So, in most cases, I'm still probably going to recommend, like, hey, do the majority of your windshield that you can access safely with the methods we just described, and then really put a light amount of material and get this down into the corners, because I think that's probably one of the most maddening things is go step out of the car and realize, okay, that windshield looks fantastic, except for that tiny little streak down in the corner.
Yeah.
And then realizing that, yeah, it's going to require something, whether I'm like wrapping this around one of our now discontinued microfiber sticks and really jamming it in there, or an ideal tool like this window cleaner set.
My personal favorite is I'll use the window cleaner set with the included bonnet to apply the cleaner, actually clean the glass, and then I'll just throw one of the towels over it real quick and use that to get in and dry it super quick. That way you don't have to worry about swapping the bonnet.
Yeah, that's a good
Necessity is the mother of all innovation.
I've done that before
There
as
we
well.
go.
Speed. Another cool tip with those, the little hanging piece actually threads off, and you can thread a broom handle or a mop handle in there. If you have a truck, an RV, or just for your home windows, you need to get up high, you can get it on a extendable pole to get up higher. Of course, drying, Stevie's tip's a good one for when you're doing big windows and you need to get it dry quickly. Just throw a towel around it real quick and reach it up there.
Okay, so we have a couple questions about what to use or when to use standard glass cleaner versus ceramic glass cleaner. I think we can, it's a good enough question that we can address it right now, and then we'll speak to it as we get deeper into our demos, which we are going to be demonstrating glass decon and glass polishing, and then glass sealant application, in addition to ceramic glass cleaner application. So basically, the way I think about this is that this is a rich formula, and again, a more costly formula. I am going to use this based upon what I know about its durability about once every 4 times I clean my windows, whether that's for washes on the exterior or for deliberate cleanings with specifically a glass cleaner. The reason being, it is that durable. The second one is we don't want to have any film or buildup, in particular on a window system, where that's like the biggest no-no. So I think that that's pretty much my rule of thumb. about once every 4 times. Now, if you are washing your car, you've been in some harsh conditions, you've gone up to the mountain, you got hit with snow, sleet, and road salt, and all of a sudden this really adverse condition is stripped off, sure, go ahead. Next time you use it, or next time you're cleaning your glass, reapply ceramic glass cleaner. I'm simply stating it is not the one you're going to use every time.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. And I mean, like you said, if the glass is too dirty, step to one of the dedicated glass cleaners to mow through the really heavy stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've been using it, I'd say like every other month, every 6 weeks-ish to refresh, and then just using the others in between. But I mean, it's pretty dang durable.
Yeah. I think, as we'll talk about too, we've had a lot of questions about glass sealant versus ceramic glass cleaner. Can they be layered? The answer is yes.
Yep.
Using them together, does that create a benefit overall? Of course. So in terms of keeping your glass protected, keeping rain moving off the windshield, keeping your glass clear when your car is in motion, that is a very effective 1-2 punch, and we'll talk about that process. Quick answer, glass sealant is your base. Multiple coats obviously benefits that. Touch it up, extend its life with ceramic glass cleaner. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I like keeping some glass cleaner in the car, quick wipe downs when you're waiting at the pump or something like that. That's a situation for the traditionals. Use ceramic glass when you have more towels, more controlled environment. Get it on there well so that it'll last as long as possible.
All right, any questions standing out to you, Stevie, while we get over to the next step of the process?
Got a lot of great ones, but
Okay.
I'll come back to you.
All right, so the next step we're going to talk about, once your glass is clean, is going to be decontamination. Now, why would we decon the glass? Glass is porous, just like your paint systems are. In particular, if you haven't cleaned or decontaminated your glass for some time, you will have a rough, tangible feeling to your glass. It will not be super smooth. That can be remedied. We sell a couple Decon tools. Our glass cleaning clay is one of them. However, one of my favorite uses for our synthetic clays, our Brilliant Finish synthetic clay in this case, or our fine surface prep mitt, is to actually break them in on glass. It's something that we recommend as they come packaged with a protective layer that when used on glass can be broken down, so then it is then fit to be used on your paint finish afterwards. So really simple process, but critical to do because we are going to apply our protection. We want to make sure that we don't seal anything into the glass. And then also if we have the need for correction or glass polishing, we're also going to want to prepare the glass that same way. Now, why would we polish glass?
Remove water spots and prep for protection primarily.
Okay, so we had a lot of questions about water spots on glass. Very common problem. There are a couple ways to go about that. One is to clean. If you have very light duty water spots related to a rain, just kind of some organic.
A recent rain.
Yeah, recent rain.
It's got to be like within 24 hours or so probably.
Those might come off with your cleaning. If you still are seeing water spots afterwards, the next least invasive way to address those is by decontaminating. If after decontaminating they still remain, you're going to probably have to polish.
Yeah, and I'd say that's true more often than not. If you see water spots, they're probably going to need to be polished. Occasionally, like say probably 20-30% of the time, you can get them off with cleaning and or decontamination like Nick mentioned. If they've been on there for a while though, I mean even if depending on how hard the water was that caused them, I mean water spots can etch into the finish as quickly as a day. If it's a hot environment and the water is hard, it could happen in a matter of minutes.
If you're in the Midwest and you get hit with heavy irrigation, it's almost, and then a hot sun,
yeah,
I mean,
it's
that
almost instant.
sold a lot of polish at car shows in the Midwest where people roll their hot rods up to a Holiday Inn, and guess what? The Holiday Inn didn't calibrate their sprinklers to care about your car. And all of a sudden, the sun comes up, it's 80 degrees right away at 9 before you can wipe your car down, you got water spots.
Boom.
So, unfortunate, but very curable.
Yeah, and the biggest cause is irrigation water. So like Nick said, the Midwest comment, the further you get away from either coast, the harder the water tends to be. It's just the nature of it all. So I know at our facility in Plainfield, Indiana, the water is above 500 TDS, which is extremely high. Here in Tacoma, it's right around 50 TDS. So drastic differences. Neither of those sources are treated. It's just what you're getting coming out of the public water treatment. So vastly different. Here, you could wash a car, let the water start air drying. If you spend 15 or 20 minutes screwing around, you could probably come back and dry it off, and you're going to be fine. You do that in Indiana, you're going to be facing some bad water spots. So lots of differences in terms of kind of the forgiveness or how much leeway you have before those form.
So I totally agree with you. Water hardness when hitting it. I know when we took this thing down to California, we got hit with acid rain.
Yeah.
And that's another circumstance in which we saw etching almost immediately, and I was pissed off because my brand new car.
Yeah, which acid rain is common. When you go through dry months, you get first rain usually has higher acidity to it.
Yeah. All right, so Decon. So if your car has water spots all over it, there's a good chance you're going to have to decon your glass and your paint, in which case, if you're trying to do both, one of our synthetic tools is an excellent option. However, on, say, an older car, I know this is the case with my old Jeep, the glass has never been polished. The paint has been a lot. So I'm not going to do the same process at the same time because my glass is the one thing that's drawing my ire. So for that, if you're just doing your glass, we have the glass cleaning clay. And I'll let you demonstrate that on the front window.
Yeah.
And then I'll show you the same technique on the back window. But really, again, if you're using one of these synthetic tools, and it's your first time using it, you're gonna wanna break it in on the glass anyways. The nice thing about this is if you're doing the paint and the glass, you can then take this down to the paint and clay your paint that way. However, this is a very specific tool formulated for glass.
We had an interesting question about the synthetic clay. Nolan, lost his name, sorry, McGilvery asked, why is there a protective layer on the clay? What's the shelf life? And I think it's important to point out that that protective coating isn't to preserve a longer shelf life. That clay is not going to expire in any way. To my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a non-stick coating because there's a small hole in the packaging so you can feel the texture, and that prevents things from sticking to it and then contaminating your clay tool.
Yeah, and from sticking to the packaging itself.
It's primarily related to the packaging, right?
Strictly for storage.
They're in clamshells, right? So it's a plastic packaging. This stuff is tacky. So it's just a very thin layer. Again, by the time you got to the second window on your car, it's gone.
Yeah, it's virtually gone.
And that has no impact on the lifespan of it outside of we want it to start its life when you open it and use it the first time as opposed to transferring any of its life onto the packaging. So it's just a transit and or packaging.
And the reason we recommend doing that on your glass is because that coating does make the synthetic polymeric surface slightly harder or more aggressive. So break it on your glass so that you don't mar your paint potentially, if you were to break it in on the paint.
Yeah, again, by the second window, it's gone. There's no question. And if you're doing the entire glass on your car, as a matter of a full decon of all of your systems, exterior systems, it's super easy. You're good to go.
And if you accidentally took it to your paint without doing that, it's not the end of the world. You may not have done any harm. It's just a precaution, best case scenario type deal.
We're trying to set you up for success, guys.
Yep. But both these products or processes are very similar. I have the glass cleaning clay. It comes in a small bar. I think it's a 3.5 ounce bar, 100 gram bar. This is a slightly more dense clay than our paint cleaning clay, so intended for use on harder glass surfaces. This won't be as likely to break off in rock chips or pitting, things like that, or cracks, which can occur if you use our traditional paint cleaning clay. It's so soft that it can shear off, which obviously you don't want. So both of these products are used the same way. The main difference is the traditional glass cleaning clay is going to absorb all of the contaminants and impurities that it takes off the glass. The Brilliant Finish synthetic clay or the surface prep mitt, those are going to shear off that contaminant, knock it off the glass, and it will get flushed away in the lubricant or the speed shine. The synthetic versions are going to last longer because they don't absorb that contaminant. This bar is probably only going to be good for 6 to 8 full vehicles, if I'm doing all of the windows, maybe less if it's a very contaminated surface. So when you're working, you don't need a ton of speed shine, you just need an even amount applied to the surface. I like to spray some on the clay and on my hands, just like when you're baking, a little bit of flour to help it from sticking. So otherwise you'll end up with blue fingers when you're done, or you can wear gloves, of course. And then just move across the surface, straight line motions, one direction, and then I'll switch and do a crosshatch pattern. So the first pass was vertical, then we'll go horizontal. So you get nice even coverage.
A great tip for when you're using a traditional clay, whether it be on paint or glass, if you find that you're a little heavy with the pressure on your fingertips, you can place it at the base of your fingers, and that way it creates even pressure instead of having those uneven pressure points.
Yeah, it's a great tip, Stevie. If I'm pushing on like this, I'm going to work my way through it. So kind of right in your palm and move across that way. That was 3 passes. That was probably a little overkill. These windows aren't very contaminated. And then simply dry off the speed shine, as you see Nick doing there. Typically, if you're doing this process and your intention is to apply protection afterwards and you're not going to be polishing, so say you don't have water spots, you just want to decon the glass and put a protectant on, ideally you're going to be cleaning the window again, either with one of the glass cleaners or even our surface prep cleanser. Speed shine does have a low level of silicone in it to aid in the lubricity. You want to get that off, ideally, before you put ceramic glass cleaner or glass sealant down. So that's kind of an in-between step if you're not polishing. If you're going to proceed to polishing, you don't have to do that because the polish is going to remove any of that silicone that's left.
Yeah, and I'll demonstrate the Brilliant Appearance synthetic clay. Again, we have different sizes of this. We have a towel, 2 grades of mitt, and then actually a machine operated pad in both 3 and 6 inch sizes. But really, this is a quick enough process on glass that, as Sam demonstrated, it goes pretty fast. So same concept, don't need a ton of speed shine for lubrication. Gonna follow the exact same process Sam did. Don't really need to decon the plastic trim, so I'm just working the glass.
And
very deliberate.
Those of you asking, like, how do I remove water spots? I know it's evident a lot of you guys are frustrated with water spots. Water spots are a giant pain, something that has frustrated all of us. This would be step 2 in water spot removal. So first, you've cleaned it either by washing the car or using a glass cleaner. Second, you've decontaminated the surface either with a traditional glass clay or a synthetic tool like the Brilliant Finish synthetic clay. And next, we're going to proceed to polishing. So if you have water spots, the next step after decon is to polish. That's where you get down to the nitty gritty and really start removing those spots.
Yeah.
Like Nick said previously, if the water spots are fresh, that step we just did might remove them. Cleaning even could take them off, but only if they're fresh.
Yeah, and most of the time you're not dealing with fresh ones if you're really frustrated.
Yeah,
right?
usually.
There's stuff that's built up. You bought a new to you car. It got cleaned up really nicely, but then all of a sudden you start catching the spots. And it just drives you mad.
Yep.
Now so both these windows are now decontaminated. This dark one is actually going to be a bigger opportunity. We do have some residue, most likely from delivery adhesive and or some light water spotting. So I don't know if you're going to be able to grab that, Matt, but it's about 3 by 6 area right in the middle here that, again, I'm rubbing it and minimizing the look, and guess what? It just kind of flashes back. So that definitely is a below surface defect or just a marginal defect that I want to remove by polishing.
Yeah, some sort of stubborn residue or maybe
and you can see it
a
from
light
there,
etching.
Right?
Yeah,
it's quite obnoxious. So maybe we can get a light on it and kind of focus on it. But one of the things we will have to do before we polish is tape. So maybe in manipulating the door, we can show you guys that flaw.
Definitely.
But yeah, this is so now we're fresh. The glass is smooth, but I still have a defect that I want to remove. Now again, if this glass looked great, I might just go to surface prep and then a protective step. But it does not look great. And granted, this is brand new glass. So you're asking why would I? Oh, there we go. You can see it now. You guys see that area right in the light beam, kind of that, again, that 3x6.
Yeah, it almost looks like frosted glass.
Seeing that on the other side, Matt?
Hazy spots there.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, this is really just, that's the bane of all glass owner.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, a lot of this stuff too, I want to make sure that everybody understands. This applies to your home glass.
Yeah. all
like
glass
any
surfaces.
kind of heavily water spotted shower doors or mirrors, even exterior windows if a sprinkler is hitting them, or it's like the rain, just directional rain. A lot of the protective steps and polishing, that'll translate right over.
Yeah. I mean, if you like your house and keep it in good shape, I'd say spending the time on your windows can save you an immense amount of time and money later on.
Oh, and I know
paying for window cleaning isn't cheap.
We've got
and it's not fun
munchkins,
to do yourself.
right? We both have,
Yeah.
they're waist high.
And dogs.
And goodness gracious, like, nose marks and hand marks and all that stuff, it can definitely poke a dad's eye.
I just had to mow through a few weeks of dog slobber and kids' handprints on the sliding doors last weekend.
Okay, so with this car, it's super easy to tape.
There's
because
no frames.
all of the trim is behind it, and it is a frameless glass. But basically, if you do have a car with frames, what you're going to do is tape around those edges, because the glass polish and the pads in particular are not kind to trim and rubber. That's the same with pretty much any polishing process. You're going to want to tape your sensitive edges and trim. But
really recommended with glass, because the pads that you use are harder, so they can do more damage to trim than a traditional foam pad will.
But this is really one of the easiest taping jobs, and that isn't the reason we picked this car. The reason we picked this car is because it's brand new glass and it still has problems. So it's not unique. In fact, all the prep that I did for this car was beating up the dealer to make him not wash it, and it came in a pretty hammered state, just from transportation. So
didn't they say you were the first guy to ever?
I thought
ask
I
for
took
the
it as
car
an
to not
enormous
be washed?
compliment that the dealer told me you were the first person I've ever known who did not want to take delivery of a brand new and clean vehicle. So
Leave it dirty, baby.
I might have problems, but if you guys are here, you probably understand.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys are learning something. We are going to show you the polishing really quick. I do want to take this opportunity to remind you, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, throw us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. That's how we justify coming back and doing this with you every month. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and sign up for our emails to be made aware of any upcoming promotions. In particular, we've got Black Friday, we've got our SEMA launches that are coming up, some exciting stuff to be made aware of as soon as possible.
Also, we misspoke earlier. The live is going to be on November 16th for the follow-up Q&A, not the 14th.
Okay.
Thank you, Stevie. I blame Matt.
All right, so we're pretty well taped up here. And basically, we are ready to polish the glass.
Yeah, buddy.
So polishing glass is a little different from polishing paint, right? With paint, you've got kind of some opportunity to do subsequent steps and refine. With glass, you may have to do multiple steps, but that multiple step is just to get to your baseline clear, defect-free glass,
Bare glass,
right?
yeah.
You aren't really adding a ton of depth or needing to do a compounding and a polishing like refinement steps. It really is just one process.
Removing water spots.
But there are limitations to it that are really important to note. We get a lot of questions about, well, can fine glass polish or any glass polish remove scratches? The short answer is some. We like to kind of draw the line at tangible scratches. If you can grab a tangible scratch in your glass, whether it be a really old windshield that has 50 years of wiper blade use, or just something where you kind of got nicked and there's not a lot that you think you can do to solve
maybe
it.
You got a little overzealous with an ice scraper, or
Even when people bust out, oh, I use steel wool for that. Unfortunately, steel wool is not going to be strong enough to remedy tangible scratches. What that would require is a leveling or thinning of that glass surface in order to remove that scratch entirely.
Yeah.
In order to remove that scratch and glass, it means that all the glass around it has to be leveled out and lowered, thinned out. That really is a safety hazard. And I think that we've discovered that there's really no commercial glass polish that is going to advertise a full removal of those type of scratches.
No, well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that automotive glass is tempered too, and if you were polishing it to the point where you're removing a tangible scratch, you'd probably be affecting that, the strength rating of that tempered glass, which obviously has to do with your safety when you're driving that vehicle. So
yeah, you get struck by a rock in your very thin glass, like you could be killing yourself.
Yeah,
honestly.
there's some safety thresholds there. The DOT and all that is something that way over my head, so I'm not even going to attempt to talk about those thresholds, but you don't want to impact that. So.
Yeah, so we have a pretty obvious, tangible malady in our glass system right here, so we're going to attack that. As we mentioned, there's only really one approach to this. You don't need to do sequenced approaches, but that prep work is important, and then selecting the right pad and polish.
Yeah, so for pads, our glass polishing pads are what we always recommend. Whether you're doing it by hand or with a machine, these pads are going to be very beneficial compared to using a foam or a microfiber pad because these use a more aggressive rayon fiber. So it's a synthetic fiber. As you can see, there's no foam interface there, so it's a very aggressive pad. I do like to use it with our Interflex pads, unless I'm doing really, really bad water spots. That's the only situation where I'll run it with no interface because you want that heavier energy transfer. If I'm doing light to moderate water spots, I'll pair it with one of our Interflex pads, 6-inch for the large 6-inch glass pads, or we have the 3-inch option for the small 3-inch glass pads. But these just give it a little bit of cushion and conformability, make for a more user-friendly process. Throw that on your orbital and get to it from there. Or of course you can use a palm pad like our palm grip pad holder and the 3-inch to do it by hand. Hand polishing with glass is actually pretty capable, more so than hand polishing paint in my experience. Water spots are easier to get out of glass by hand. However, there are situations where you will need a machine. Just like paint defects, you're going to hit a wall when it comes to hand polishing. There's going to be water spots that you won't be able to get out by hand if they are very severe. We'll go ahead and use 3-inch orbital for our demo here. I'm going to throw the 3-inch interface on there and then one of our 3-inch glass pads.
Probably one of the best uses for that 3-inch machine is glass polishing.
Definitely.
Higher OPM, higher maneuverability. If you just run a 6-inch machine into something like this kind of angle right here, it's just going to be problematic. So you can get that G8 a lot tighter in on there. I do also like to use both tools for big glass surfaces.
Yeah,
really you can
big.
Use the small one for framing,
Yep.
the same way you suggested with the glass wiping or the cleaning, and then use the bigger machine for the bulk of the area.
Yeah, and I mean, for big glass or really hard water spots, definitely use both. If the water spots are light to moderate, sometimes I'll just use the G8, just since it's more wieldy. But it all depends on what you're up against, how big the windows are.
What machines you have, too. If you've only got the G9,
definitely.
can you machine polish with that?
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
But
And
you
then-
might want to err on the side of caution on the edges and then cut in with a hand polishing process.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a great point. If you only have a large platform tool, you can do the final corners by hand. So for polish, we're going to use our fine glass polish. This is a cerium oxide based polish, so it uses cerium oxide abrasive, which is developed specifically for glass polishing, different from the aluminum oxide that's used in our paint polishes and compounds. Not a ton of product, enough to evenly soak the face of that pad, but wipe off any excess, any large drops that you have there. And then
See you a little better here.
a lot of the technique is the same process that applies to paint. So product on the pad, we're going to start with the pad on the surface. Got my cord over my shoulder so it's not banging up against the paint. Going to start at speed 3. We'll spread the product out and then we'll speed up the orbital speed to 5 and slow down our arm speed a little bit. So start out Nick, I'll let you kind of talk through this as I go here.
Yeah, so this is a polish that I've found that can swing a little bit more because of that initial application. So as Sam showed, just kind of spreading it out at a lower speed is pretty critical. In particular, overspray, swinging this around onto your paint system, not ideal, not a big problem, but definitely best process to start slow and then speed up. Another thing you could do at those slow speeds, if it was a really tight surface, is frame it, as we talked about. Kind of work your way around the edges, knowing that you've got the tape as a buffer, and now all of a sudden you're not running that backing plate into that trim, potentially going through the tape and causing the damage that you were trying to prevent. So definitely still exercising caution, even though the glass surface is not really something you need to be as cautious of as you do with paint. You don't run the risk of a lot of heat-related damage in this process, but it's really what is around the glass, right? That rubber trim, any chrome trim, that's what you're trying to not damage as part of this process. With those harder pads and a harder abrasive, it could do some damage there. So, having said, very easy to avoid. Proper preparation is generally the key. So Sam's gonna do a couple passes. Now, as we mentioned, I took this car delivered new without any dealer prep done to it. Still had all the adhesive on it. I actually did a comparison on the other side where I clayed and polished one of the windows and applied ceramic glass cleaner, and then did not clay and polish the front. And the durability I got was so much superior on the one that I did this preparatory process that I would not discourage anybody from doing that on a brand new vehicle. Just because it's brand new to you doesn't mean that that process isn't required. Even if heavy damage is not there, at least do a deep clean and decon to set yourself up for maximum durability, which is going to be the next step, right? We're going to talk about glass sealant and ceramic glass cleaner for you.
Yeah, and like what you had up there, I mean, a lot of cars coming from the dealer, they have stickers on the windows or film or
just like, something that's run down the roof, right? And in delivery, going through different climates or different weather, and just dripped on the glass, seized or dried. Who knows what the exact nature of it is, but generally it's safe to assume it's probably not perfect or excellent glass from the get-go.
Yep. So I did 3 passes there with the polish. I wasn't using a lot of pressure. This is a unique situation because we're not attacking heavy water spots. We're really just polishing to remove any residues, any film, get out any light spots like what we had up there in the corner. But in this case, I didn't use any pressure. I'm just letting the tool do all the work, a couple pounds to keep the pad flat, slow arm speed, 2 to 3 passes for this type of scenario. If you have water spots, the main things that are going to change are the pressure that you use and the amount of passes that you're doing. I mean, water spots range drastically in severity. So I've done windows where it takes me a single pass with very little pressure. The polish knocks out the spots, no problem. It's quick and easy. And then I've had cars that are absolute nightmares. I spend, I think the longest glass polishing I ever did was on a black Ford F-350. It was a ranch truck from a cattle ranch in Idaho. The guy that drove it parked next to the fields, the pastures every day. Irrigation sprinklers hit half the truck every single morning, and literally half the truck looked gray. It was so water spotty. I think I spent like 4 hours polishing all that glass.
I had a good analogy. Like, some water spots are like a standard pepperoni pizza, right? You're just removing all those water spots, and they're evenly spread out. They're pretty consistent and natural.
Yeah.
Some are like a pepperoni lover's pizza, where it's like they're layered and scaled almost, and you're like removing the top layer and then cutting down deeper.
Yeah.
So there's like multiple processes, but the approach is the same. And to your point, pressure and amount of passes is going to be dictated by what the glass is telling you, and what you're happy with as well.
Yeah. Now all I can think about is pizza.
Do we have anybody that you want to give something away? Because we got to give something away.
Yeah.
So we got to find us a really good question, Stevie, and let's give that person. What was it? what was it, like goat farts or something? That was the first guy. I haven't seen any great questions from him, but I mean, obviously, we're not going to give something away just because you got a good
bunny fart
screen
loads.
name. Yeah. Let's find a good question. Give somebody.
My kids would like that one for sure. You guys might have seen I was just getting ahead of myself here, cheating a little bit for wiping off glass polish residue. I like using our window cleaner, just a spritz or two on your towel, just enough to make it come off nice and easy. It's a water-based polish, so if you put it on heavy, it tends to dust a little bit and can be harder to wipe off. So the glass cleaner is a quick tip to make your life easier.
Surface prep cleanser is also great, but
yeah, absolutely.
To your point, water-based means it's not going to have the same ease of wipe off as like our oil water emulsions that are in our Boss creams, and it just makes it very fast.
Yeah, one way. So obviously, once you've completed the job, you can dry it, clean the glass again, let it dry, and visually check it for visible spots, which that top spot in the corner we definitely got clear. But another way to check your glass that gives you a more detailed view of stuff that you might not be able to easily see is you can spray it with water or glass cleaner, or just get a damp towel and wipe it lightly to where there's still moisture, and you can see that inconsistent finish. Hopefully you guys can see that on camera. That's residue that's still left behind. Ideally, you want that to be completely uniform and black. You can see towards the bottom and the top, like these darker sections are completely bare. All of this other stuff still has some sort of film or residue left behind. So I'll probably do a couple more passes on this to get it completely clean.
There's a couple questions I can answer as you're doing that. Garrett Jordan asked, at what point is reapplication of product required when polishing glass? I think there's two cases. If you were going to do 5 to 6 passes on this single panel, because it's a water-based product, you might actually see it drying up or clarifying as you're, so clarifying being, okay, now I'm covering this and it's clear.
Yeah, or it's cleaning itself back off.
Yeah, so that might be a good indication of reapplication. But as you move from window to window, it's generally generally you're going to reapply. So this is a perfect demonstration right here for how we're going to do this.
Yeah, so I just did 3 passes, and at the end of that last pass, you could see it was doing just what Nick just described. It was starting to kind of clean itself back off because it was drying out. So I'm just going to re-wet this pad without squeezing too much out. Just moderate amount there. That wasn't a ton. Couple quick swirls on there and rub it in.
Michael Tybone asked, when applying glass polish, does it matter what type of buffer is used? Does a short throw or long throw make a difference?
That's a great question. I usually go with a short throw just because you're always polishing up next to protruding trim, and the long throw is just going to make it harder to get close to that trim and not smack into it and potentially bog your rotation down. That being said, in a pinch, I don't think there's any reason to not use a long throw other than that.
If it's your only tool, your biggest thing is maneuverability, right?
Yeah.
Like this, we were just talking about this today. This Bronco is really unique. It's got a lot of very tall, big square
windows,
glass panels. Yeah. It's pretty damn easy. On like a modern Camaro, you've got this tiny little strip of I don't know what the shape is. It's not a hexagon. It's got 5 or 6 sides, but you're really in a tight spot. So the shorter stroke is quite easy and maneuverable. And then of course, if you are limited with the long throw and you're finding that, okay, I can do 85% of this area without running into the trim, then just cut in with hand or smaller machine.
The one tool that never use on glass would be a rotary, because you will swirl your glass potentially, which
and the only other knock too is with a water-based glass polish, the long throw may generate a little bit more heat, clarifying the product or drying it prematurely before you've gotten all the cut out of it that you want.
Creating more dust. I will say one good tip that I've learned if you're ever doing a really intense glass polish vehicle that has really bad water spots to where you're using so much polish that it's creating a lot of dust and getting very messy, you can polish all the glass, leave the polish residue intact, and then wash the vehicle a second time. Sometimes that can actually be easier than trying to scrub all of the water-based residue off. That would, I'd say you're only going to need to do that if you're doing a really intensive glass polishing
I can't
job.
read the first name, but this is a great thing that we can address too before Sam turns the machine back on. There it is, Cody James. He goes, I don't know if you've covered it yet, but please tell me how to get water spots off the plastic windows that have the exact same soft top. So if you have the same soft top, or you have like a old Miata or something with, you know, these very flexible plastic windows, you may see the same thing that I saw. Do not rub, dry, wash with water-soaked cloth. Okay, well, what kind of guidance does that give me?
Yeah.
Luckily for you guys, it's my job to experiment on this stuff. And even so, I had some uncertainty because if I muck it up, it means I'm buying new side panels.
Yeah,
so,
which are not cheap.
in general, though, I'm washing this as normal. And we have found that something as light as our perfecting cream, probably, you know, our complete polish would be another safe hand option. You wouldn't necessarily want to turn a machine on, but to cure some water spots, do the same approach, right? Clean with a glass cleaner. If that doesn't remedy, you know, step up to a Decon. In this scenario, I would not use our synthetic clays. I would use our standard paint cleaning clay for this approach for Decon, just to be as gentle as possible on what is a very easy to scratch surface.
Yeah.
And then our perfecting cream, very, very mild abrasive. Do that by hand just to remedy some of those water spots. Again, just test a very small inconspicuous area first. If you're getting that success, repeat that process. But, you know, ideally, you know, we live in Washington. I'm trying not to get water spots on this to save my life. One way I'm going to do that is by using ceramic glass cleaner on it. I know I can use that for protection. But yeah, it's a finicky surface. It's a problem that has been, you know, if you've had a Jeep from, I don't know, the late 70s onward, you've dealt with very inferior materials and scuffing it, fogging it. So unfortunately, that has not been perfected. But you're asking for perfection. If you've got a top you can just jettison off and go right out into the sunset. No, it's the trade-off there.
I got lost reading comments. You mentioned polishing too, right? Did you?
On this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfecting cream.
Yes.
By hand. Yes. And test an inconspicuous area.
I saw we had, I don't know if it was relative to flexible plastic windows or not, but we had a commenter ask, while they're off the vehicle, is there anything I can take advantage of that's going to be easier to do if you have soft top windows and they can be removed? Like I know these side panels, you can take them off separately, pull them off, like lay down a dry towel or something on a workbench and polish them there. Much easier than doing it off the car where they're, you know, flexing away from you as you try to work.
Yeah, I actually set them down and had my kids run across them. Right?
Scratch them up.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, probably.
Oh, you set it like on the garage floor?
Yeah, I literally was like setting them down as I was removing them, and in that time I had two streaking children running around, and it wasn't that they were barefoot and didn't have clean feet. It was that they pushed the windows together and they kind of abraded each other that way. So that's the joy of being a parent, right? That's why we can't have nice things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
While we're on the topic, we did have a question from RHP Video. What would you use on a windshield of a motorcycle? Something that's some type of plastic or polycarbonate.
Similar process to what Nick just explained with the soft plastic windows on a convertible top. Same things would apply, you know, on a polycarbonate motorcycle windshield, or say like a race car windshield if it's Lexan or some other type of polycarbonate. I know a lot of aircraft has Lexan or polycarbonate windshields, windscreens, as well as side windows. So yeah, same processes that Nick just recommended. Decontaminate with traditional paint cleaning clay because it's going to be the least aggressive, and then polishing with like perfecting cream.
Inconspicuous areas.
Softer foam pad.
If your Lexan windshield is off of a square fairing 80s Honda or BMW, and you're asking to remove years of yellowing and cracking, sorry. But if you're talking about light polishing, then I'd say either correcting cream, perfecting cream. Very light hand approaches are great for that. Now you can do plastic polish and a machine on other lenses. For water spot remediation, in fact, I think our plastic polish video has me restoring the taillights on my 63 Lincoln. They're 60 years old. So it is possible. You just have to have realistic expectations and be gentle with your approach. And then I did see a couple questions about helmet visors. I know when I'm racing, my my visor actually has an anti-fog material inside, so I can only clean that with water and a clean towel. On the outside, I will clean it with traditional glass cleaner, and then every weekend before I go racing, I will apply ceramic glass cleaner onto it. So it's kind of just a doubling down of like, hey, I'm gonna get hit with something. If it moves off because of the combination of my speed or whatever's already on my visor, excellent. But I'm cleaning it off between sessions. I just don't go on the interior lens. And that kind of consistent cleaning eventually gets to a point where it's like, okay, can I polish this thing to save it? Probably. Is it time for a new visor after a couple of years? Most likely.
Yeah. Well, that's important to mention with motorcycle helmets or any type of helmet with a visor. I think most of them are coming coated now with some sort of anti-fog or even polarized, which you don't want to polish that either.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be like the cool guys in F1 with those very like anodized.
Yeah, like the reflective mirror.
Yeah, and definitely don't want to jeopardize that. I don't want to like rub a part of it over my right eye.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you definitely don't want to do anything that's going to impede your vision while you're out there on the racetrack. So, yeah, take caution. Check those, manufacturer recommendations on any sort of helmet, visor, or windscreen or goggles that you're wearing while racing, and definitely follow those recommendations there.
All right, we want to hit this thing again, and we'll catch up with a couple more questions.
Yeah. So again, doing that second pass over it to remove any remaining residue from the surface to prep it for protection. So I'm just going to go a little bit slower this time, but other than that, the process is going to be the same as what we just did.
Jonathan T. asks, can one use ceramic glass cleaner inside of the vehicle? We did address this. The answer is yes. It will clean, but there's not going to be a huge benefit to using it inside. It does not have anti-fogging. It looks like some of you are already responding in the comments. Great. Anti-fogging is going to be a different chemistry than what we're asking this to do on the exterior glass. Marathon Man Pete Moss asked, he did a 3-step process on his paint to remove all the water spots. Is it safe to assume that I'm going to do 3 passes on the glass? Again, very different materials in terms of how they will respond. Paint just having the depth and the ease of continuing to improve with multiple processes. Glass, you may get lucky and have less to do if it responds better. But so I'm not going to say you have to do 3, but is it safe to do 3? 100%. Scott Doyle asks, seems like my European cars have softer windshields that get micro impact spots. Will the polish help smooth them? We kind of answered this already. Any divots or tangible scratches, like I know on I-5, you get a lot of like sand, and with just like age of glass, you're just going to get very small little divots. Unfortunately, no. The glass polish is not going to remedy those. If somebody is advertising a polish that actually does that, I would, move with caution and presume that they will most likely be sued out of business very shortly.
Yeah, and even in plastic, we had a question about that earlier as well.
Pitting, right?
I mean, it's just hard. Once there's, a texture change to the material. I mean, plastic, I suppose you could potentially sand, but gosh, you're opening a whole can of worms there. You'd probably be better off just replacing the material.
$75 visors are no joke. They are not, but hopefully you're getting your use out of them. And again, your maintenance is going to make them last as long as possible. If at some point they get some incurable malady, you're not going to be able to get it out with anything we're suggesting.
Yeah, I know at the beginning of the live, we had a customer that was like, tell me, how to perfect my sandblasted windshield on my car with 150,000 miles. Like, replace it. It's just the only way.
Sorry,
the cost of replacing it is going to be far less than the time you're going to have to spend to try to get it back, and you're not going to get anywhere close to what you're going to get with a brand new piece of glass. So that's just
and at some point, I guess you have to ask the question: what is the, what's the trade-off?
Yeah.
Original glass on a 1963 Lincoln, yeah, it might be worth something to somebody,
For
but
sure.
if it's not
It's a
pleasant
great
to
point.
drive in the interim, sorry, that glass is going.
Yep.
But then again, if you look at something like the 59 Buick, that Invicta with a wraparound windshield, I don't believe that they make that. So you might have to live with that and just improve it as much as you can, knowing that, yes, I've got the scratches from wiper blade use that are accumulated over 60 years of its life, but I can't replace that glass. I can just do the best I can with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's all you can do.
Are glass polishing pads washable? Yes, they are, Garrett. Again, they're going to be some of the easiest to clean because
they're water-based.
they don't absorb a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not a lot of material there, and the water-based glass polish rinses out very easily. I know we had some questions earlier, like how do you clean towels that you're wiping off glass polish with? Same way you clean any other towels. It can be good, if you're very particular about your microfibers and want to keep them in tip-top shape. Keeping your glass towels separate from all your other towels, it's an extra step. You don't have to do it, but it's just going to help ensure that you're not cross-contaminating or getting lint on those glass towels, which is obviously the most annoying place to have lint.
Yeah.
On your glass towels.
Okay, so we've polished this glass, and this will be a good residue check. But before we add protection, as Sam mentioned, our window cleaners are great ways to strip off any of the glass polish residue and really set the surface in a neutral way. However, if you've got Surface Prep Cleanser for use on your paint, great to use on your glass. It's a really effective glass cleaner in general as well. But the way it's leveling out to me is indicative of Sam doing a great job polishing. That second time was the trick, which again is pretty crazy given that this is brand new glass, right?
Yep.
But it just goes to show that, hey, we're not making this up. Like, brand new glass can have plenty of issues.
Yeah, sometimes even more than used glass.
Yeah, so really that Surface Prep Cleanser step is just to make sure that, just like, again, in this process, using our window cleaners, there's nothing in between the protective step that you're going to apply and the glass. So that will make sure that we get the most durability out of that protective step. So, before we run out of time, I definitely want to go through glass sealant.
Yeah,
and while
for
that's
sure.
setting up, I want to show the headlights as well.
Yeah, and some ceramic glass cleaner. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know we've had a ton of questions about that. Lots of you guys saying you're having a hard time getting it streak-free.
We'll do
which,
one on each window.
Yeah, it's definitely possible to get it streak-free. We promise we would not put a product out that was that streaky. But being that it has protection in it, yes, it is harder to get it streak-free than what you're used to with a traditional glass.
Oy.
Man down.
All right, we're done with that one.
Well,
Can't go live without some,
without
live
Sam dropping
TV.
something.
Yeah. I think it was me last time.
Oh,
but-
well.
Okay, so let's do some glass sealant application. So we have a couple different protective options. One of our long-standing products, which still holds up and is absolutely excellent in a very ceramic-based world, is our glass sealant. And really the way to get the most out of glass sealant is to do exactly what we just did. Decontaminate the paint. If you don't need to polish it because your glass is in pristine condition, good for you. Just go right to what we did, kind of a stripping step, and then a protection step, which is glass sealant. That is going to be the best process, which is clean, decontaminate, polish, strip, apply.
Yep.
If you can skip the polishing step, again, great. That is excellent. But as we are approaching these darker, wetter months, a fresh coat of glass sealant and a fresh, polishing step on all your glass is going to set you up for the best durability and great visibility and water repellency in these months. Difference between this product and, say, a more common Rain-X. Rain-X is going to feature silicone. Sure, you could just wipe it on, but you're going to get less durability. And really, I would say that even the makers of that product, which I'm pretty sure is Rain-X, would suggest that these steps will increase its durability. So that setup process we showed you is going to apply to any protective step that you're going to apply to glass.
Yeah. My biggest complaint about Rain-X, which I haven't used in years, but it's always been the splotchiness of it as it wears off. It tends to wear off very unevenly, which is frustrating when you're relying on something to be repellent and give you better visibility. So that's something that you won't experience with glass sealant. It wears off very evenly and is much more durable. So for applying it, I'm gonna steal one of your towels here, Nick. I like to use just our multi-purpose edgeless utility towels, but really any basic microfiber is going to work. You can also use the no nap side of one of our PFM or crinkle dual weave glass towels. I'll just do a few lines of glass sealant there on my towel. So not tons, but you want an even application on your towel. And then should we do a 50-50?
I was just going to do that window and then ceramic glass on the front.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll just leave
do an entire.
I'll just leave a small bare section.
Sure.
And
This
then
means I got to come back and do it later. Thanks a lot, Sam.
you're always telling me to not do your stuff for you, so. But just like waxing, you just want to get it on evenly. That's really the only objective here. So overlapping passes, one direction, then we'll switch, go the opposite direction, and then just let it haze up. So you can already see it kind of starting to flash off there. You'll get that kind of rainbow effect, which if you've used coatings before, you get that with those as well.
We'll kind of try and get some.
But you can kind of see that oil slick on there starting to haze up. But I'll let this set for at least 10 to 20 minutes. So depending on the environment, if it's colder or more humid, let it set for longer. You're going to be closer to 30 to 45 minutes. If you're in a climate-controlled space like we are, it's about 70 degrees in here, not high humidity. It's going to be ready in probably 10 to 15. And then you can layer this. So I usually do 2 coats. You'll apply your second coat right over your first coat without wiping off the residue. So you'll just come in after 10 to 15 minutes, once this is hazy, come in with your towel again, squirt a little more on there, just go right back over it with a second coat, let that set up, and then come back in and wipe off. For time's sake, we're just going to do the 1 coat today, but you guys will see some of the wipe-off tips that we use to get this off a little easier. And
I almost always do 2 coats.
Super simple. Yeah, it's
and
very quick and easy to apply.
On some of your vertical glass, like your side glass and I mean side glass and really the rear glass, where you might be using your rear, you might not have a rear windshield wiper, like on most sedans. You're going to get excellent durability out of that product, but on your windshield wiper or on your front windshield where you do have wiper abrasion, that's going to be the area where you do get the most degradation or the fastest degradation.
Yep.
That's going to be typical of even high solids coatings, which we've tested many times over to find the same results. So, but on the sides, like, you're going to be absolutely impressed with how long this product lasts.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll be impressed on the windshield too. And ideally, you're not using your wipers as often because you have the awesome protection there. So it's going to, last long that way as well. And I mean, I would say with a fresh, a healthy application, you only need to get up to speeds probably 30 to 35 miles an hour, maybe even a little slower when it's fresh, and you'll see it, evacuating off your windshield very quickly.
Yeah, and again, that's part of why the Decon is so critical,
Yep.
right? I mean, if you've got a super smooth surface to apply it to, you're not going to have anything that the water grabs, on the glass itself. Or can
Keeps your
cling
glass cleaner longer too, which is great, and helps prevent ice formation just because it keeps moisture off your glass. You'll still get some ice. It's not going to completely prevent your windows from icing up, but it helps it from getting quite as thick.
I think it was snow for me.
I
pushed a whole sheet of snow off my windshield and then watched all the water just push off it. I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, a lot of times getting the snow off, it's like you do that kind of first pull and it just all falls away.
Yeah. So Ron Shoup is asking, how do you tell when it's ready? It's hazing up right away, right?
Yeah.
So that haze is pretty clear compared to the untreated section that Sam so gratefully or generously left for me to do later. But really, it's a time-based thing. And again, as Sam described, environment conditions can dictate whether you let it set up for longer in a colder, more humid condition, or if you kind of chase it in the recommended 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, I almost always do 2 layers. There's really no question. You use so little in the application that you're not really kind of burning through a bottle by doing multiple layers.
Yeah, little goes a long way in the new, so our new packaging, we have a child-proof cap because of our lovely friends in California and their strict regulations. And the orifice reducer that's in here now, actually, I like it better than just having the pop top because this is such a thin, viscous product. That smaller, dispensing top just makes it easier to control your application so that you don't overuse it. So help preserve product there a little bit.
All right, you want to show these folks ceramic glass cleaner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So we kind of mentioned this before. I think we've definitely seen people talk about streaks with ceramic glass cleaner. One, it's a multi-purpose product, right?
Yeah,
It's going to clean, it has the ability to clean and leaves protection behind. And it is a richer emulsion. Right? I mean, it just is it has more substance to it than a standard glass cleaner, which is meant to be light, easy to wipe up, fast flashing. Not that this is not fast flashing, but it is just, you're delivering a protective element to the surface. So it's even more critical that you're conservative with your application, and that if you're trying to get the ultimate result, you take some steps to do so, and that you don't use it every time as well. I think most of the customers that we followed up about streaking have been using it consistently. Or using way too much product, or not cycling their towels. So those are some of the techniques we described at the very beginning of this. That's not to say that we don't want a brainless, easy to use product. We always try to make it easy to use and make you very happy. But glass is one of those areas where if you have one of those slight changes in conditions, it can really mess up your results.
Not a lot of forgiveness.
Even if you're the best glass cleaner on the world or on planet Earth, and you've probably seen some Facebook videos of some pretty impressive glass cleaners, I guarantee you, all of a sudden, they're in a super hot day, they try and do the same thing, they're going to get streaks if they do it the same way they did it on a cooler, indirect sunlight day. So
yeah, and it's just, you want durable protection. There's some trade-offs there in how you have to apply that. It's just not quite as easy, and you can't be quite as haphazard as you can with a regular glass cleaner that's going to evaporate very quickly.
I also think it really mirrors kind of what we recommend about our ceramic wash and coat.
Yeah.
If your exterior glass is exceptionally dirty, find some other way to clean the majority of the excess dirt off before using this type of product.
Yep.
With any combination product, you're not going to have as effective of each individual combined use as if it were just simply a straight protectant or a straight cleaner. So if you can wash your car before using it, and if you notice that, hey, a decontamination might be advisable at this point in time, that's going to really set you up for success with ceramic glass cleaner more than anything.
Yeah. Good question came in. Scott Doyle asked, do you need to protect moldings when you're using glass sealant? You can probably see here I colored outside the lines a little bit and got some on Nick's trim.
Thanks a lot, bro.
He's not strangling me because, no, you don't have to protect trim. It's not going to hurt it. It will just flash off. You won't be able to tell that it was ever there.
If anything, what I've found is that when I go to do the glass sealant, I remove the tape, probably prematurely, and then any kind of overage that I have, actually a little bit of the solvent that's within that glass sealant can actually clean some of my trim pretty well. So it's not really a bad thing, but definitely, you can just wipe it up right away, but there's no real risk of damage.
Yeah. All right, so for ceramic glass cleaner, again, towels are key. I'm going to use 2 of our PFM dual weave towels. Towel management, making sure I'm flipping the towel as I go, and then not overusing the product again. This glass is already clean, so we don't have dirt to cut through here, so that's going to help us, not use as much. Even if you have dirt on the surface, I would say you're still going to want to use a comparable amount to what we're using here. So just 2 sprays, that's all I'm going to do. Prime the sprayer first. 1, 2. So again, very little product. You don't want it running down the glass to where you're having to rush and chase it before it drips all over everything. And then I'm going to do my first wipe quickly, starting to evaporate. Flip the towel, go back over it to buff out streaks, frame the glass, and then just because this product's rich for good measure, I'm going to come in with a fresh, completely dry towel. Haven't touched glass cleaner with this, and I'm just going to reframe and re-wipe the surface for one last time to make sure there's no streaks whatsoever. So you might call that overkill, but when it comes to getting clean glass, that final wipe down with a completely fresh towel will always help guarantee you knock out all those streaks.
Yeah, and I think the biggest key for me is towel cycling and not overusing.
Yep.
It's the most common thing is, if I've watched people use window cleaners before, is they just absolutely douse their windows in window cleaner.
Yep.
And that's just a chore. And again, that can help if you've got really heavily soiled windows. Just know that that's going to help the soiling. It's not going to help a streak-free finish.
Yeah, well, especially when you're talking about, you know, polymers and SiO2 actives, you're going to just be pushing that stuff all around as it builds on itself with that much product. So,
yeah, I would suggest there's no real benefit to layering ceramic glass cleaner like there is glass sealant. The only thing is that 12-hour cure time is going to be ideal.
Yeah.
Right? Let it set overnight. Again, it's not going to wash away. That's just going to be maximum durability. So how are we looking on?
I think it's
we're
ready.
probably
Yeah,
about
it
there.
looks
So
ready.
yeah, I mean, basically, in terms of appearance, it doesn't look very different from when it initially started to haze up, probably 30 to 45 seconds after application.
No.
But we've found just in our testing that 10 to 15 minutes really is ideal. Again, at this point, if I were to look at this and say, okay, 10 to 15 minutes is up, I'm going to go do a second layer.
Yep.
And by the time you really work your way around the car, you're almost back to the point where, hey, I can start removing that first window. It's really not a tough process. The more time intensive is the setup of taping, decon, taping, polishing.
Absolutely. And we've had a couple questions. Is a ceramic safe for side mirrors as well as is glass sealant safe for side mirrors? Yes, they're both safe for both standard and auto dimming side mirrors. Polish is the exception for side mirrors. You do not want to use glass polishes on automotive mirrors. Most automotive side mirrors are coated plastic. If you use a polish on it, you can go through that coating, then you have a black spot in the middle of your mirror, which nobody wants. For removing glass sealant, I like to use the same tip that we used for removing glass polish, just one spritz of our window cleaner there. Doesn't affect durability at all, and then helps it come off nice and easy. If you don't add window cleaner to your towel, you might experience that it just requires a little more pressure and some extra passes to wipe off. You can see there's some leftover wispy residue, so I'm just going to flip the towel, do that final buff, and then we're good to go. I can feel the slickness difference too from coated to this bare section over there. It's much more grabby on the bare section, so that's a good and a representation of how that protectant is going to help keep the glass cleaner, prevent water spots, just because the surface tension is much less on the coated side.
We had a question earlier from Ron Feldman. He asked if it was recommended that you use the glass sealant before ceramic glass cleaner for optimum durability. Like, I believe his question was framed as in, is it recommended or required that you use glass sealant prior to using ceramic glass cleaner in order to get an effective, durable coating?
Yeah, I'd say not required. You can absolutely use them on their own, but it is a great way to get maximum durability and hydrophobicity or repellency having those two products stacked. I mean, I have not abandoned glass sealant. It is still superior when it comes to durability. So I've got this down on all my cars as the base, and then, every 4 to 6 weeks, I'll do a thorough job with ceramic to
Top it off, touch it.
add life.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, just like any other protection, over time, exposure to elements, that really impressive initial result is diminished. How do I keep that base layer, as active and durable as possible? You top it. For us, on a paint surface, it's, hey, when you wash your car, you can use ceramic wash and coat or ceramic speed shine. That'll continue to supplement, or ceramic 3-in-1 wax for that matter.
Yeah.
Continue to supplement that base layer, keep it as durable as possible. Same concept here. I think we've all concluded that our best result is achieved by multiple layers of glass sealant, so 2 layers of glass sealant, and then layered and touched and maintained with ceramic glass cleaner.
Yep.
That doesn't exclude the fact that you might be cleaning the glass multiple times in between glass cleaner or ceramic glass cleaner applications.
Yeah, we had one really good tip, which I think might be worthy of a giveaway because we completely forgot to mention it.
Okay, great.
It's one of my favorites. Terry Curtis mentioned that if you lower the windows, you're you're not getting the top edge clean if they're rolled all the way up as you clean them. So on this car, on the Bronco, it's a little, we're lucky because the windows are borderless. So you do have a little bit on the inside that's touching the gasket. So that's the final tip for getting glass completely cleaned. Once you're done cleaning the body of the window, open the door, crack the window.
Usually a quick run,
clean that top edge.
A quick run across the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are here because you like details.
Yep.
And that's a pretty critical one.
That's an important one. So Terry Curtis, email us at social@griotsgarage.com, and we will get you that enthusiast glass cleaning kit.
I have selected a couple other winners as well. Garrett Jordan has been asking a lot of great questions that we've covered already. And then he also had asked if we prefer microfiber for sealant application or if he could use a red foam waxing pad.
Yeah, I was going to get to that one. You can use the red waxing pad. That's actually what we have included in our kit. Do keep in mind, there's kind of a funky reaction with that pad. It'll turn blue when you put the glass sealant on it. So it's going to be perfectly fine to apply that way. But yeah,
it's really funky.
It is.
And again, it doesn't limit its utility.
Magic.
It's just this like weird.
Yeah, it's we did it on purpose so you know what pad to use for glass sealant. Totally.
Yeah. Really.
But it takes a second.
Yeah, Garrett has definitely asked quite a few questions, so I support that giveaway. He had asked if ceramic glass cleaner isn't ideal when compared to specialized product, is there a better combo for both cleaning and protecting? No, again, it's just the nature of a combination product versus two separate processes. You're never going to get as good of a result with something where you're combining purposes unless you really, really try hard and can, take some sacrifices on one aspect of the performance. So in terms of what we're sacrificing with ceramic glass cleaner in the combination, it's the wispiness, right? Yep. It's that really fast flash. So you just have to be mindful that over applying that product on an extremely dirty surface is going to create a lot of wiping, a higher potential for streaks, so that the limitations are extremely dirty, probably pre-cleaning is ideal. If you're just trying to add protection, you don't need a lot, right? So, but if you're talking about lightly dirty glass that you haven't cleaned in, or you haven't used ceramic glass cleaner on in, again, about 4 to 6 weeks, ideal, great. You get it all done in one, as opposed to doing ceramic glass sealant, all the steps that glass sealant. Yeah. All the steps that we have done, right? It's a quicker way to get it, but there are some trade-offs as it relates to application. So is there a better one? I don't think so, because a lot of the ones that exist on the marketplace feature that kind of cleaner and silicone aspect, which that silicone's a lot gummier than our ceramic solution. There's no doubt about that, and less durable. So
much less durable.
I don't think there's a better solution in this category, but it just is something that, hey, there's a technique to this. And when you're stepping up to the level of ceramic and expecting ceramic level results, you got to be mindful of the best approach and practices.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely a little more involved with the performance that you're going to get out of it, but it is well worth the time and effort.
Yeah, Ron Shoup says, when would you strip it all off and reapply the base coat of glass sealant and then ceramic glass cleaner?
That's a great question.
I don't think I ever am at a point where I want to strip it all off.
Yeah.
I generally do it seasonally.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I like to polish my glass annually, probably about this time of year ahead of the rainy season up here. But that being said, polishing isn't always necessary. If you've maintained the finish year round, you could probably just put a fresh application of either protectant on and keep running with it.
Well, if you're talking about exterior surfaces too, if you're doing, say, a full reset on your paint protection, you might be washing the car with foaming surface prep.
Yeah,
that's probably going to diminish some of your glass in terms of both the alkalinity of that product and the cling, and then the abrasion of a contact wash with foaming surface prep.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That might be your reset in terms of stripping off an older, protection. If it's still hanging on and you hit it with, foaming surface prep wash as part of your seasonal reset, guess what? There's your clean slate. And yeah, if you don't have to polish, good. Polishing glass is not great in terms of like having to do it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want to polish my paint that often either.
No.
I'm hoping I only have to do it once or ideally never.
Yeah, as little as possible. Well, should we
But that just speaks to how you care for your car.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, if you're doing a great job, those type of more intensive polishing or restorative processes should be minimized.
Yeah, definitely shouldn't be done. Should we hit that with some water
Yeah, let's do it.
before we get to the headlight kit?
All right.
So we'll try not to get camera gear wet here. So remember, we've got a control on the far side where that's bare. Glass sealant, single coat, ceramic glass on the front. There you go. So that's pretty sweet. You know, very stark difference there with the water hanging up on the control. And you can see no sheeting allowed. You know, even if I hold pressure there, it's just flowing right off, immediately clear. And then ceramic glass on the front. You can see, so it's one thing to point out is the SiO2 in ceramic does like the 12 to 24 hour cure post application. We're disobeying that right now and getting it all wet, so you're getting a little bit of that slower sheet.
I will also speak to the fact that this is factory new glass that we had to polish twice in order to get it to lay down
Completely clean.
You know, so the fact that we did not polish that definitely speaks to the
that's a good
adhesion
point.
that we're getting to as well. But I think that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, still very good protection there, as you can see. But good comparison. I would say, to Nick's point, you know, if this was prepped properly and allowed to set up and kept dry after application, the hydrophobicity or repellency is going to be comparable to what you see here from glass sealant. Maybe slightly slower, but very comparable. So pretty awesome though. I mean, always, sorry Nick, always love to see that. And when you're cruising down the highway with it pouring down rain, you will be much more relaxed looking through that glass than uncoated glass.
All right. Well, I mean, do we want to do this demo? We got time for it, or should we answer a few more questions?
Real quick. Well, we'll do the demo. You guys like demos.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a demo.
I think we can answer some more
Okay.
questions.
Well, we had one other thing we were going to stuff into this whole visibility topic, and that is your headlights and your lighting. So, as opposed to standing in front of you guys for half an hour, we wanted to demonstrate just the kind of concept behind the headlight restoration kit that we sell. Most people that have fogged or yellowed headlamps are dealing with newer plastic lenses, which are very, very common, and a degraded or failed UV coating or UV paint that is on the lens. So the only real way to remedy that, and it's very easy to do, is not to buy an infomercial wipe-on product that magically clarifies the lens only to wash off a week later. It is to truly remove and sand this failed coating down. Now you'll see this fail in different ways, but a lot of times it'll start on one edge or a corner and start to kind of work through as if it's like kind of skin peeling off. Again, really indicative of that coating failing. Did I miss anything in terms of that assessment?
Nope.
So we've got a very, really hazy and yellowed lens here, all the way down to its indicators. Now, I can't even venture to say what the diminished output of that is, but I can tell you the difference between this process is going to be quite stark. So, our process really involves a lot of sanding. If you skimp on the sanding, you're going to have a bad time. So, we suggest a 1,000 to a 2,000 to a 3,000 grit sanding process, doing a lot of cutting at the 1,000 level. That's going to remove the majority of the coating, and the subsequent steps are really used to refine and diminish the depth of the sanding marks so that the coating can fill those sanding marks and clarify the lens. It's not unlike our previous kit. However, our previous kit was only a single step of, I think, about 1,500 grit.
Yeah, I think even a little
800.
more aggressive than that.
Yeah, so 800 grit. However, the paint was a little bit heavier, so that it could fill those sanding marks a little better. However, the ceramic coating is legit. We did, borrow this technology from Cerakote, NIC Industries. They're great guys to work with. They make this stuff in White City, Oregon, right outside of Medford.
Yep.
So in this scenario, again, we've gotten all the way down to 3,000. If you can look at the actual sanding marks, again, it's going to be a whiter looking lens versus the yellow kind of deaded lens in particular around what presumably is your low beam.
Yeah, much more uniform on the sanded side.
Yeah, so great job on the sanding, Stevie. You did not skimp. In fact, a couple of my wife's friends have called me about this, and they're like, I got bad results. I was like, how long did you sand? 5 minutes? Okay, you need to do it a little longer. Sure enough, next time, worked perfectly. So it's pretty incredible. It's just a great reveal. But just wiping that coating onto the lens and watching it
satisfying.
Do its job.
The clarity.
This is not a silicone-based kind of wipe new product, which I just outed the brand. Fortunately, this is the result of actual sanding. But really, it's so simple. We're not really worried about streaks. It's just getting it on evenly and really finding all the areas that you have sanded, applying that, and then allowing it to set. Really, it's 30 minutes to secure from water.
Look at that.
And then I think it's 2 hours before you directly spray water onto it. But definitely staggering. Again, this is not really anything magical. It's just that the actual process of remedying this lens is to cut off or sand off that dead UV coating. The lens should still be okay unless you're seeing crazing or cracking from the inside out, which you may still see on a lens that you've sanded to clarify this way. But really, it's just if you can tolerate that, you still get the light output of a clear lens.
Yes. Well, it's just, as far as like value for the time you spend and money you spend goes, if you have hazy headlight lenses and you've got $30 and an hour to spend, there's probably not much more impact that you can make to the visual appearance of your car than using this kit. I mean, it's going to take you far less time than doing a full paint correction, and everyone is going to notice it as soon as they see your car.
In fact, it's like one of the easiest things to notice for everybody else, and it's like when I see somebody with extremely fogged up windows when it's a sunny day and dead headlights, I'm like, dude, you're not ready.
Yeah.
Like, how do you drive with like that? Sun glare. Like, what are you missing?
Yeah, and keep your distance from me.
Yeah. But it's an amazing thing, and this definitely helps with the visibility in terms of, okay, if your glass is clean and your lights suck, there's obviously things you can do with the bulbs, but if it's primarily starting at your lens or you're not scrutinizing your lens as it relates to the potential to improve that, it's an easy place to start.
Yeah.
Again, I was looking at replacement bulbs, or these are housings, right, in modern cars, right?
Yeah.
Like an old Land Cruiser or the old Jeep, you just pull the lens out or the bulb out. That's a little simpler
in the lens.
Versus this being a big plastic assembly that you've got to replace, probably multiple hundreds of dollars.
I mean, I would say on a lot of new vehicles, this is from an X5, that's probably $1,000 from the dealer, easy. For one side. I mean, a lot of headlights are getting very expensive, especially projector headlights, all the fancy, tracking headlights, all that stuff these days. So you do a lot for yourself by using that kit. And I think the light output improvement is about 30 to 40%. Same bulb, same headlight, just from going from hazy lens to clear lens.
From stock output, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like if we're going backwards in terms of this, like we're definitely improving quite a bit.
Yeah.
Is there a practical limit to the number of times you can sand a headlight? I mean, if you're going through this process multiple times, that's definitely going to be over a very long lifespan of the car.
Yeah.
Can you use a lamp to quicken the process? You do not need a UV lamp or anything to accelerate this cure. 30 minutes is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
right?
it'll set up dry to the touch in 5 minutes. The 30 is really a precaution to make sure that it is completely dry. But typically, you'll apply it. You don't. It's a product that once you've applied it, laid it down evenly, don't come back and go back over it, because as it starts to set, it will become tacky. You want to apply it, leave it alone for 5 minutes. Do not touch it. come back. I always will, check like if you have tape along the top edge that's not actually on the lens and there's some coating on that, tap that with your finger, make sure it's dry, not tacky, before you peel any tape or start touching the actual lens. And then ideally you want to allow it to set up for a full hour before you drive the car.
Yeah.
So before you take it out into an environment where there may be dust or dirt or things like that.
Yeah, we're getting some support from Omega Detailing. This is a true high solid ceramic coating. We have guaranteed that finish for the lifetime of the car. So if you are seeing it fail prematurely, give us a call. We're going to send you another kit so that maybe if you did something wrong in the process, you can just start over and try again. But I have seen no reason to believe outside of improper sanding that this isn't a very, very permanent solution.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to touch on, because I did see a comment about using the G8 for this process. That will accelerate the speed of the sanding and minimize the time. These 3-inch discs are Velcro backed. They come with a hand applicator, but sure, put that onto a G8, and so long as you've taped around the headlight itself to protect your painted surfaces from a sanding disc, go at it. You're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Speed up those results, a little less elbow grease. Yeah, that's a great way to charge customers for that service as well.
Yeah, you can charge a lot for that too, usually.
Yeah.
$200 or $300 for a headlight restoration, and you might only spend an hour doing it. So,
all right, guys, I think we've covered quite a bit. Hopefully you guys are, you learned something from us today, something about proper technique or process.
And Jerry Lotta found us out. We do have Stevie do it anytime we want it done right. You're not wrong.
That's generally correct. Very
I was going to make
dependable.
a joke about scrubbing dishes being good practice, but then I figured I shouldn't.
Oh, come on, we don't make you do that.
We don't do dishes around here, but yeah. We do have a lot of microfiber that we go through, so.
Telewashing is a shared endeavor.
That's probably the closest thing to dishwashing in the Griot's Garage building. But
easily.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, if we did not get to your question, remember that we will be doing a redux of this.
Yep.
What we call No Questions Left Behind. We will be posting that this Friday. So check that out. We also do giveaways in that. So it's a great chance for rewarding your participation in addressing your questions specifically. We generally get hundreds of questions during this process. And we're trying to stay on topic and show you some stuff. So we haven't forgotten about you. We call it No Questions Left Behind for a reason. So.
And don't forget, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you'll know as soon as we go live at SEMA on the 1st to release our new products, and then again on the 16th to go over those more in depth and answer your questions.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you don't want to miss it. A lot of free product. What is it, like $2,000?
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Like I said, you can start your company with that. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Have fun in your garage. See you next time.
Have fun in your garage.